Greetings and welcome to this installment of our introductory 3D modeling course with SOLIDWORKS. Today we are going to extend our modeling of the screwdriver. So far we've gotten the handle done, and we are going to produce two simple parts, these two here, and we're going to focus on assembly and sub-assembly in SOLIDWORKS. So let's start off with a new part, and notice how I have already saved it and I've made sure that my units are what I'm looking for, millimeters. And we'll start off with a fairly simple square shaft, and that will be an extruded boss base, and we will be sketching on the right plane, and it's just a square. As we did in the handle example, I'm going to make a center line that goes from corner to corner, and I'm going to hold the control key down, make sure all of these four sides are equal. Then I'm going to right click on the center line, select midpoint, hold the control key down, select the origin, make them coincident. So I'm almost done with the exception of a single dimension. So again, we're going to focus on these relations. And this is a 6mm square, and now everything has turned black. Since I started off with the features and it shoved me into Sketch and I didn't make any weird mistakes, it's asking me to extrude, and for my own purposes I want to go in the opposite direction, so I just click on that button and I want it to go 95mm. There's no sense of symmetry in this, so I don't want to use a mid-plane or anything else. I want it to go blind 95mm, and no sense in going in another direction, so hit my green check mark and it makes this nice straight shaft. Now I imagine this as a bar that is rolled on some machine, and we're just going to hack it off and possibly do a couple of other processes with it, but by and large it's just going to be this bar. So another process that we're going to want to do with it is do something at the end here. The point of this part of the shaft is that it's going to be overmolded onto the handle. So that's great. There's going to be a lot of friction there when that happens, but you'll also want a mechanical interlock. So I'm going to go to the top plane. I'm going to sketch, and I'm going to reorient this sketch. And I'm going to make a 3-point arc from here to here and here. Now, according to the drawing, just need to make a dimension from this point to there. That's going to be 5mm. Going to make another dimension from here to here of 10mm. Then from here to here. Now notice how the default is to the center of the circle. I'll just take that as a default. And then I'm going to go to this leaders thing again. I showed you this once before, and I want the minimum distance. So I want it to go to the tangent here. So this is to the center, this is to the minimum distance. The maximum distance would be to the other side of the circle. So there is my minimum distance, and I'm going to make that 1.5mm. Okay, so we have the cross section, and notice how we're doing it on this plane. We made sure that everything was nice and symmetric. So we're doing it on the top plane this time. And I'm happy with that sketch. Uh-oh, there is one thing about that sketch I just noticed that we didn't do. We only made the arc. We should always make a full loop. Now there are sometimes reasons that you don't want to, but usually they're lazy reasons. So I'm going to go back in and put in a line from one point to the next. And this can really help out our modeling in the future. There can be some problems sometimes when the computer doesn't understand where we actually want it to build. So this is just good form to connect all the dots. Sometimes the computer will want to connect it itself. And then I've seen it go all the way around the model and come back here when all you really wanted was this one line. So it's just best to tell it what to do when you can. So I'm going to take that sketch, go to features, do an extruded boss base. This time we'll want to do it mid-plane, and it will be 2 millimeters thick. Okay, that looks a lot better. Another very powerful command is the mirror command. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out like you like it to, but in this case it should be just fine. Now I've already selected my boss extrude 2, this thing here, and so I can go back in. I could mirror other features, but we don't have many other features to mirror, so click right there. And now this is an important one, mirror face plane. Now if I mirrored it on that plane, see how in the yellow it shows up below. If I mirror it instead about this plane, it would come on the other side of that plane. But I want it to go through the middle here, so that's going off the front plane that you see there. That's going right down the middle. There's the front plane. And it's going to come up on the other side, which is great. Now some might say, well, how are you going to make this? And the answer is, at the moment, not really all that important. I would expect some machine to upset it coming down from the top or the bottom after this shaft had been cut. And what we want to specify here is simply that we want a detail that is 10 millimeters long, 5 millimeters down from the top. It comes out 1.5 millimeters and is on two sides here. Okay, the exact shape, whether it's an arc or maybe a square or something like that, is really not all that important. That's why I didn't put a radius in here or anything like that. As long as what we have is a mechanical interlock into the overmold of the handle. Now, last but not least, I'm going to put on some fillets, and we can do some face fillets here, and just want all these edges knocked down, and we'll make them, oh, not 10 millimeters, that would be a little bit large, so 0.5 millimeter. Okay, that's much better, and we were able to do all of those edges fairly quickly. The next part we're going to do is the hex that goes on top of the square shaft. I'm going to start again with an extruded boss base, and we'll use the right plane again, try to keep it consistent. I just need a diameter of 6.5 millimeters. that will be extruded through 30 millimeters. There's the 30. Well, this looks like a nice cylinder. I do believe we have the wrong dimension on it. 6.5 is not the right dimension. So there are a couple of different ways of doing it. We can just double click on the feature and the dimensions for the feature should come up, both in the sketch and for the feature here, the 30 millimeters. And I can change that here, or I can right click on the sketch, edit the sketch, and you can modify the parameters there as well. So either way it works. Double click there and change it to 10 millimeters. And don't forget, rebuilding it using that button. That's better. Okay, now we're going to build the hex. I'm going to cut that into this side. The other side we will put in the square. So go to Sketch, click on Sketch within Sketch. Asks us for a plane, so there it is. I want to reorient to go straight at that plane, and I'm going to click on our hexagon here. So here's our hexagon, and keeps all of these sides nice and equal and so on by the use of this patterned line. And now notice it also has this circle here. Now this circle will not produce any solid modeling. It is simply for construction. That's what the little checkbox means. If I uncheck that, then it becomes solid, but it can come in handy to have these circles and any of these other entities used for construction. So I'm going to go to Smart Dimension, go from top to bottom, should be 6.5, and notice how it still is all blue. Now the circle is not blue. We know where that circle is now. It's, as long as I started on the origin there, I'm good. But all we need to do for one of these is click on this, make it horizontal, and we're good to go. Now I'm going to exit the sketch. I'm going to go to Features. Notice how the sketch is already selected because I was just using it. I'm going to go to Extruded Cut. Okay, and the hex is going to go in 10 millimeters. That's about it. Okay. And now for the square. I'm going to sketch on that plane. I can just click right there. Make an identical square to what we had before. Make them equal. Make them 6 millimeters. And make them centered. Hold the Control key on the origin, and now it knows where everything is. This one, for features, we will also extrude it as a cut. That will be 15 millimeters deep. Nothing else special for that. And here we go. The only thing left is to make fillets. We make them 1/2 millimeter, and in items to fillet, everything here, 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 and here. And then there are these faces. And the bottom face there. Top face here, and the top face here. I expect this part to be possibly metal injection molded or some screw machine. And do we really need those fillets? Well, on this side, we probably want them so they fit the bits fairly easily. This side, not quite as important because this is going to be welded into the square shaft. Right, save that, and then let's open a new assembly document.